Boo, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is the Housewife Did It.
Halloween edition. Part 3.
Ooh. Yep. We're getting there. We're getting through it. And if y'all are liking this series or us at all, please consider liking, subscribing, replying to our poll questions, and otherwise engaging on audio or on YouTube or on social media.
If there are other series you'd like us to do, I was thinking maybe we could even do like a Christmas special as like a gift to you. So that's our Christmas gift to you, is that we do another series for Christmas.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah.
Let us know.
All murders that took place in the snow. Yeah.
Yep.
So, for a couple real-time true crime things, former New England Patriots player Sergio Brown was arrested on charges of the first-degree murder of his mother. Sad. I guess we'll have to see how that continues, but... And then, an update, the judge in the Ruby Franke case decided to seal all records and proceedings from the public. Which is probably not a bad call. Sad for us.
They're trying to keep us down.
But. Alright, are you ready to get started?
I guess so.
Okay. Probably the most infamous case to come out of the Cecil Hotel is that of Elisa Lam. She had been missing for 3 weeks when her body was found inside of a water tank on the roof of the hotel. This was 10 years ago, but the mystery remains. Was Elisa Lam murdered? Did ghosts or paranormal activity in the hotel have anything to do with this? Was it a ritualistic elevator game gone wrong, or was this a result of mental illness? I want to be clear.
Cast your votes now.
Yeah, put them in before we keep going. But I want to be clear that this is not a case where anyone is able to definitively say what happened. However, I think there are some theories that can be ruled out, and we're going to work through a few theories, some more outlandish than others. I cannot possibly review all of the theories that have circulated. You will get our opinions, but just know there's no for sure answers here. So,
yeah.
Elisa Lam was 21 years old and a student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. She was born Lam Ho Yi in 1991 to parents who had migrated to Canada from Hong Kong. In 2010, Elisa had created a blog on Blogspot, and then it moved to Tumblr. She posted in 2012 that she had had a relapse that led to her dropping a few classes. I think this was just like a relapse in her mental health, not like a drug substance relapse. She worried about how this would look on her transcript. She talked about this in her blog. She was also interested in writing and fashion and Harry Potter. And I think people probably got to know her pretty well in her blog posts. And she was very open and herself in them. So that's how we know most of the things we know about Elisa. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She was prescribed medications to manage these. While her family denies any suicide attempts or known suicidal ideations, Elisa did have a history of missing her meds, having hallucinations, and being gone for long periods of time. In January of 2013, Elisa went on a solo trip to California. She had traveled to a few other cities in California before her time in LA. Elisa's family had appropriate concerns about her traveling to another country alone, but she was an adult, so they settled on her checking in with them daily. I guess what else can you do?
Mm-hmm.
On her blog, she actually posted all of the plans of her California trip. Later, Elisa admitted to feeling a little concerned about this, about having her itinerary on the internet. Would not recommend doing that. When she got to LA, she checked into the Cecil Hotel on January 26th and originally into room 506, which was a hostel-style shared room. Shortly after, her roommates complained that she was behaving oddly. So it said that she was leaving notes that read, "Go home" and "Go away" on the other girls' beds. And she would lock the door and require a password for entry. These were not people that Elisa knew, just randomly assigned roommates. So I understand that this behavior could be a bit alarming for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or even, like, at the very least, like, annoying, you know? Due to the complaints, staff moved Elisa to an individual room, which is where, I don't know how long she was in either, but at some point in her stay, she was moved. It is also reported that a few days prior to her disappearance, Elisa went to a live show filming, possibly Conan, according to reports, but she was escorted out after being disruptive. Upon returning to the hotel, Elisa also had an outburst in the lobby of the hotel. It is unclear what the specific disruptions were that she caused at the show or in the hotel lobby. January 31st was the last day that hotel staff saw her and the last day that her parents spoke with her. Elisa had called her parents every day of her trip to check in with them, and this was the last day that she called. She was expected to check out of the hotel on February 1st, but she never checked out of her room. When her parents hadn't heard from her, pieced with the fact that she hadn't checked out of her stay, police began to investigate her disappearance. When the police got to the Cecil, the staff had already emptied the room of her belongings and put them in the basement. This was protocol, that when someone did not check out of the hotel when they were expected to, the manager said that they kept people's belongings for 30 days, but in the basement. And that it was actually, like, quite common for people to leave a lot of things behind. I'm about to list the things she left behind, and I think it gets a little not so common. But, yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, I get that, like, they can't, like, be responsible every time someone forgets to check out, or, like, there are times, like, I don't necessarily check out every time if it's, like, a swipe key. Like, they can make more. And they just, like, you know, They know when you're leaving. But I don't know. I find this weird.
I think it's weird that they have a basement that they're putting everything in. Like, I think that, like, when we think of, like, maybe we lose something at a hotel, if they keep it for 30 days, maybe it's being kept in, like, an office or something.
Yeah.
I think that it's the basement part that makes it feel weird.
Yeah, and it's also that, like, everything that Elisa came with was in the room.
Right.
So, among her belongings...
Well, also, like, people leave a lot of their stuff all the time. Like, why... Like, I think you need to look into the fact that your guests are leaving so abruptly that they are leaving every single belonging they came with.
Well, and in the documentary, the manager says, like, one time a guy left a snake in the bathtub. That is not the same as leaving my passport or my, like, clothing. But okay. So, among her belongings were her cash, her cards, and her passport. Only her phone was missing from her things. They did also find her meds, which seemed to have more remaining than there should have been if she was taking them regularly throughout the trip. The room was described as disorderly, but not destructive. And the last person known to have seen Elisa was a hotel staff member who, according to Richard Estep in his book American Hotel Story, said that they moved Elisa out of a restricted area of the hotel on that day of the 31st, and that the last time they saw her was when they removed her from that area, and then she headed toward the elevators alone. I don't know what that restricted area was. Why is it so easily accessible? I don't know. Reportedly, the police were unable to get search warrants for each room in the hotel, which some people find weird. I don't necessarily, I guess, if they really wanted to, maybe they could, but it's these people have paid for these rooms, and, they're in them, so, it does make sense to me that you can't get search warrants for a bunch of rooms for people who you have no, probable cause for, and since people at the Cecil did, live there, it's,
right.
Getting a search warrant for someone's home when you have no reason to, so some people think that's incredibly suspicious that the police did not go into every room, but, they knocked on doors and entered the rooms that guests allowed them to search, as well as used staff key cards to enter any empty rooms. Police canines were brought in and followed Elisa's scent out of her room, down the hallway, and the trail ended at a window which opened up to a fire escape. The police stated that they did an extensive and exhaustive search of the hotel. Many people who follow this case feel that this cannot be true, given where Elisa Lam's body would later be found.
Right.
Unfortunately, hindsight is 20/20. There were working cameras throughout some common areas in the hotel that the investigators were able to use to try to track some of Elisa's movements. There were, unfortunately, though, not any cameras on the 5th floor where Elisa had been staying. Elisa's parents flew down to California.
Just on that floor?
I mean, maybe others, but I'm guessing that means the camera scattering is random. I don't... Because I thought, I feel like if it wasn't on any floors, they would have said it wasn't on individual floors. It was, only in the lobby. But maybe, like you said in our last couple weeks, maybe they only put the cameras on the highest floors. Because that's where the most shit was happening. They were like, we don't have the budget to get them in every floor, but good God, do we need it on the 9th through the 14th?
Yeah, I don't understand, the logic behind the people who work at the Cecil ever. I watched one of Greg's videos.
Yes.
Our pal Greg.
Greg at the Cecil or whatever.
He did, he was like, this is the route Elisa Lam would have taken, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we're gonna see what happens when we open this, emergency door. He was like, an alarm should go off. And he opened it, and an alarm did not go off. And he was like, oh. And he, looked, he's like, oh, they have it turned off. And I was like, at what point do y'all learn? Because by the time, we're looking for Elisa Lam, several people have died in this hotel.
Yeah.
Y'all need cameras.
And if nothing else, that should stay locked because people like to jump.
Right.
Out of the Cecil. So you telling me they ain't no worries about them jumping from the roof?
Right. Literally not a care in the world.
Yeah. So, Elisa's parents flew down to California from Vancouver to assist the police with the search. On February 7th, the police held a press conference with her family, showing Elisa's picture and asking anyone with information to come forward. On February 14th, after Elisa had been missing for 2 weeks with no leads, the police decided to release footage from the hotel from the elevator that showed the last sighting of Elisa Lam. Now, I'm going to attempt to describe the video for those on audio. The video is 3 minutes and 59 seconds long, although Elisa is not in the video for its entirety. So, bear with me narrating this. So, Elisa enters the elevator from the left. She bends down and puts her face close to the buttons. She then presses an entire row of buttons. It looks like the middle row. Now, Elisa did wear glasses, but didn't have them on at the time. So it's
an entire row or an entire column?
An entire column. You're right. Elisa did wear glasses, but didn't have them on, so it's very possible that she just had to get that close to see the numbers. I mean, it's not like words on the page of a book, kind of small, but possible nonetheless. People believe that maybe she remembered like which column her floor number was on, but like couldn't see the number, so she just pressed all of them in that row. Like she remembered 5 was in the middle. She then steps back from the buttons, and in my opinion, at this time, she still looks calm. She's just waiting for the elevator to start moving. However, the door is not closing. And at this time, Elisa steps forward and kind of lunges forward, poking her head out the doors and looking from side to side. She steps back again and puts her back up against the side of the elevator. Then she slides into the corner as if she's hiding, and still the door is not shutting. She steps forward again and stands right in the doorway. She's looking out into the hallway for a few seconds, where she steps her right foot out. Then she hops out. She takes one side step with her left foot. Then her right slides over, then backward. It's like, it almost looks like she's doing like a square dancing move. Mm-hmm. Then she steps all the way out of the elevator and to the left, and for a bit she goes entirely out of view. She moves back over just enough that we can see her right arm. Then she throws her right arm up in the air, and it seems that she put it either like just on her head or like in her hair. She steps back into the elevator, grabbing both sides of the doorway, either looking like frustrated or like she needs to steady herself. Mixed opinions on that. She bends close to the buttons again and starts pressing more of them. She was doing this for a few seconds, maybe like she's making another attempt to figure out what's going wrong. Why are these buttons not working? When she steps back, it doesn't really look like any additional buttons have been pressed, so she may have just been pressing the same ones again. She walks back out the doorway and runs her hands through her hair. At this point, she's facing the right, and she bends down slightly and starts gesturing with her hands as if she's talking to someone. She starts reaching out and moving her arms around with her fingers eerily extended. I don't know if you remember when you watched the Murdoch documentary, and they would talk about like when Paul got drunk, and like his hands would, like, that's kind of what they look like. Yeah. It kind of looks like she's searching with her hands like you would in the dark, as if she's trying to feel if someone is there, which is also like, if the door's not closing and you're like, right, why is the door not closing? Is there something here? Is there something blocking the door? Right. Then her hand motions become ones like if you were being animated while explaining something, and then it seems she starts counting on her fingers. She turns to the left and she walks away, and we don't see her again. But the video continues for 1.5 more minutes, which makes people wonder why that part was released. But we see first the doors close, then they open on what looks to be the same floor, then the door closes and opens on a different floor, and for the rest of the video, the elevator is basically just stopping on the floors whose buttons have been pressed. So, thoughts on that, Mary?
I also think it's strange that the doors weren't closing.
Mm-hmm.
I would also be looking around to see
Yeah.
what was going on. But having seen the video, the hand gestures are creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to get into a few... People have done some tests, and, like, there are a few reasons the doors may have stayed open. Some, I believe, are more likely than others. So, we will get into all of that. So, the police did not realize how huge releasing the video would make this case. It went absolutely viral. The Reddit pages, YouTube sleuths, and even international news outlets could not stop talking about this and trying to decipher what this could mean. Many theories emerged from this. It's disputed whether Elisa looked scared or playful. Some believed she looked like she was being followed and was hiding. Others believed she was relaxed until she realized the door wasn't closing. Others think she just looks confused, like either about the doors or about something else. Still, others think she could have been either acting out a movie called Dark Water or playing a ritualistic elevator game. We will dive deeper into these theories later. One of them will be in just a minute. And then, many people also felt that her behavior was in line with someone who is suffering a psychotic break, possibly from bipolar disorder. Psychiatrists have weighed in, saying that they do believe this looks consistent with a psychotic episode. Additionally, the timestamp numbers on the bottom of the video are illegible, which caused concern that it may have been tampered with. I believe investigators have indicated that this was just due to the quality of the system or information that they chose to keep close to the investigation, like what time it all occurred. I don't have a hard and fast answer on this. It is really...
I don't think it's out of, like, the realm of possibility that the Cecil has really old cameras.
Yeah, of course. It is really difficult to tell what is going on here, and we will never really know for sure. I definitely think parts of it are eerie and creepy. Some people went to the Cecil Hotel later and tested out the elevator. They said that in that column that it seems Elisa pressed all the buttons of, the bottom button is a door hold button. And when they pressed it, it held the elevator for 2 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
Right. That's crazy. I've never been in an elevator where the door hold button actually did anything at all.
Right.
But the internet sleuths tested it. Some still believe that someone was outside of the elevator holding down the call button, preventing the doors from closing. I think Elisa would have seen them when she poked her head out.
Right.
And I also think that we would have seen them at some point, given that she left. I don't know. Like, I think we would have seen them at some point.
We could see her outside of the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if the hold door button keeps it open for 2 minutes, then that's definitely...
It kind of feels like case closed to me on the elevator thing.
Why the door was open.
Right. She's also seen gesturing toward the right, but then leaves to the left, and we don't see anyone follow. So, like, if she was talking to someone to her right, they would have had to pass the door frame, like, unless the Cecil Hotel management is who killed her, and they cut that part of the video out, I guess. So, no one follows her, which makes me think that there's not anyone there. I think the little hop that she does at the beginning is quite playful, but then I think the gesturing is where it gets more concerning, which may even be when she got more concerned. So,
right. I mean, look, like you said, I've never been in an elevator where the door holds for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I would, and especially in that hotel.
Yes.
I would be freaked out. Like,
Yeah.
at first, I might be like, okay, what the heck is going on? But then the longer it stays open,
Yeah. And you can't see the buttons,
like,
so you don't know that you pressed
right.
that button.
And she keeps, like, hopping in and out.
Yeah.
And, like, that's keeping the door open longer.
Yeah.
Probably. Like, yeah, I think that it makes sense for her to get a little more nervous about what's going on.
Yeah. Now, I do guess that if you fall into the camp that the hotel staff and the LAPD conspired to edit this video and are protecting one of their own, then all of those things I just told you about the elevator go out the window. So, maybe you're done here, actually. I do wonder if it is true that she was just, well, I mean, this is what I kind of believe is true, but I wonder if it's true that she was just confused about why the elevator wasn't closing, which is based in reality. But due to her bipolar disorder, the possibility of being off her meds, a history of having delusions and hallucinations, she could have put like a lot of meaning to that fact and started to believe that like someone or something was blocking the doors that she couldn't see. So she's feeling for them. She's maybe even talking to them or saying like, please close the doors. She's counting. Maybe she's counting the seconds she's standing there. Maybe she's explaining something and she has points.
If you don't shut the door in 5, 4, 3,
I just like
consequences.
Yeah, I just think that there is obviously room for both this to be a very normal, why isn't the door closing? And also she is ill, and so that could become very frightening because a person who is well might walk out of the elevator and be like, hey, Cecil, your elevator's broken. And for Elisa, it is like a big deal, you know?
Yeah. I'm afraid of the dark. And like when I get up in the middle of the night to like go to the bathroom, like in my house, we don't have a bathroom attached to our main bedroom. It's in the hallway, and so I have to like leave my room to go to the bathroom if I go get like water or something. Like once I turn the lights off in the hallway, like I literally like it feels like my chest is closing in,
sprinting,
and I have to like sprint back to the room where the TV is on and like where everyone is asleep and like close the door so fast because like I do not know like what is in the hallway, and so like I feel like it's very possible that like the more she is like trying to explain why the doors are not closing, like the more believable it becomes that something is going on, that she knows like there's something keeping it from closing, she just can't see it, but like it's there. I think that makes a lot of sense. And like personally, in broad daylight, which the video is in, I don't think that I would think like, oh, there's somebody in the hallway like listening to me. But again, like for someone who has a history of like delusions, it's very possible that is where her mind has gone, and that makes a lot of sense, I think.
I think it's possible for like anyone who believes strongly in like ghosts and spirits, but I think it's made like exponentially larger if
more real.
Especially if this, we don't know, this could be similar to a past hallucination she's had. This could be something that has like happened before, you know, I don't know. So one of those theories that emerged from the elevator footage is that Elisa was playing some sort of ritualistic elevator game that is said to take you to another world. This comes from an urban legend that originated in Korea. Here are the rules of the game. First,
do not play it.
No, get ready. Please don't play it.
We're not giving you the rules so that you will play.
We're giving you the rules so that you can see if it lines up with what you saw, which it doesn't. So,
Yes, it does.
no. First, you need at least one player and an elevator in a building with at least 10 floors. Check. First step. Enter the elevator. Do not allow any outsider to enter with you, and do not leave the elevator once you begin. If you exit, you must start over. 2. Ride the elevator in the following sequence. Up to 4, down to 2, up to 6, back down to 2, up to 10, and back down to 5. Remember not to get off at any of these floors. At the 5th floor, you should encounter a mysterious woman. Do not look at, answer, or in any way engage with her. The consequence would be that you may be unable to return to the real world. Next, you will push the button to return to 1. If it takes you back to 1, exit immediately and do not look back or talk to anyone. If it actually begins to take you up, you are being allowed into the other world. Now, you also need instructions to return to the real world. So,
I should hope so.
You must find the same elevator. Some have said that once you're in the other world, this may be difficult, but keep trying. Is the instruction.
If at first you don't succeed.
Use the exact same sequence of floors, still not getting off at any of them. When you reach the 5th floor again, press 1. If it begins to go up, quickly press any other button before you reach the 10th floor. And that's the instructions. That's it. While I think this is an interesting theory, I think it is clear in the video that she is not pressing the buttons one at a time or in any particular order. It seems clear to me that she's like not aware of what buttons she's pressing.
Mm-hmm.
And she would have to have the whole game memorized because she don't got like nothing in her hand. Which is possible, but she's not pressing the right buttons.
I like the idea of the elevator game. I don't think that's what happened, but I do like it because I think that it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I had always understood it to be like what we saw in the video was maybe after she had played the game.
Okay.
Because there's there's these consequences for if you do engage with the woman on the 5th floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that her pressing all those buttons is like a way to get away from the woman.
Yeah, a panic.
And then her getting on and off and looking like she's talking to someone is her talking to the woman who can't be seen on the video because she's just part of the game.
I think that's interesting, yeah.
That's how I always understood it, was like, because in people's like stories about playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
like they say like once you see the woman, like she doesn't leave you alone.
Yeah, if you engage,
like she
yeah.
just kind of follows you everywhere basically until you kill yourself.
Okay.
And so like the people's theory is that like she was pressing all of the buttons and like talking outside of the elevator and like freaking out about the door not closing because this woman was like following her.
Yeah, and maybe she didn't know the instructions to get back,
Mm-hmm.
or like all the stuff I read was like, if you panic and it's not working to get back, like call 911 or press the emergency button. And it's like, but that's assuming that this other world didn't like confuse you or disorient you, or like, am I really going to be in my right mind?
She's staying on the 5th floor, so I think we assume that she's like coming out of her room and getting on the elevator to go somewhere.
I think we're assuming she's in the lobby.
Oh, okay.
But
so then,
I don't know.
I wonder if she was like, if she was like on her floor,
yeah,
which is the 5th floor,
yeah,
if this is her, like, coming back.
Yeah.
And she, like, gets on, and she feels like she's going up, so she just hits all the buttons to try to stop.
Yeah, it says as quickly as you can. Yeah. Interesting. Maybe. I mean, they did say gone wrong, so me applying my logic to it would not account for that. So, in addition to this viral video footage, the police also said that they were able to watch some footage from the lobby where two men handed a box to Elisa and she walked off with it. It is unclear which day of her stay this was or what kind of box. This does seem to line up, though, with the recollection of Katie Orphan, who worked at the last bookstore across the street from the hotel. She said that Elisa had been there shopping for books and music, including to bring back to people back at home, which would be a sign that she's future-oriented, planning to go back home. Katie states that Elisa was concerned that she had bought so many books that they would be too heavy for her to walk around with or carry back to her hotel. Police seem confident, not sure if this is actually confirmed or just them using their reasoning, but they feel confident that these men were delivering those books to Elisa that she had purchased just because they were too heavy for her to walk back with alone. They did confirm that they never saw those two men return at any point on the Cecil's camera footage, which frankly means nothing to me.
Yeah.
So, but the books, I think it's probably just the books.
They love the books.
The children love the books. People also began looking into Elisa's recent blog posts as she was very active on Tumblr. I will read a few interesting posts that could lend themselves toward various theories. In one, Elisa writes, quote, "I'm not very conscious of what I'm saying most of the time. I take things too far and I have no filter." End quote. In another, during her trip, Elisa wrote, quote, "Going out tonight. Hope no creeper tries to follow me." End quote. People also found posts where she indicated that she wanted to complete suicide, though I don't believe any of those were especially current. On February 19th, guests at the hotel began complaining to staff that the water pressure had significantly slowed, in addition to the water being discolored with a bad taste and smell. The manager sent a maintenance worker to check on the water tanks and see if anything was clogging the water supply. Which is interesting to me that that's like your first, like why would it be so easy for something to get in your water tanks and clog the water supply that you're just like, oh, our water tastes like shit, like probably just some like...
Because you always leave your roof access door open.
Probably just some dirt in there, like what? Weird. At around 10 a.m., when the employee got to the roof, he noticed that the hatch on top of one of the water tanks was open. So he looked inside where he saw the naked body of Elisa Lam floating toward the bottom of the tank. The water tower was 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide, and the hatch was 18 inches by 18 inches. The water itself was 5 to 6 feet below the top by the time her body was found, so it was like mostly empty by that point. Mm-hmm. In the water, Elisa's clothing was found. It was the same clothing seen in the elevator footage. And to remove her body, the tank was drained of water and then a hole was cut out of the side of the tank. Thoughts?
I wonder why.
I think because that hatch, which would be the way to enter, was so small. But the only other way to get in it would be to move the entire lid, which they said weighed like a lot. So, and because so much water was like they'd have to like fill it to get her to rise, I would think. So probably just because the water was already so low.
I was thinking there was like a ladder inside. No. Never mind.
people wonder how the police did not notice the open hatch door when they searched the roof, or how canines would not have hit on her scent on the roof. For many, this confirms the idea that the LAPD are hiding something or were purposely postponing the discovery of Elisa's body. The detectives say that they simply didn't go near the water tanks during their search, and they just focused on looking around the surface of the roof. Again, hindsight is 2020. That was stupid. I don't understand.
You're supposed to look everywhere.
Also, like, at a place like, listen, if we're talking about, like, the top of the goddamn Ritz, I get it. You're not looking in the water tank. We're talking the Cecil, baby. You're telling me it is out of the question that someone could be hidden between the water tanks? There's, like, 4 water tanks. Bodies could fit between them. That some evidence was left near the water. You didn't even go near the water tanks? Yeah. I don't find that. I personally don't find it suspicious, but I just, come on, do your job better.
I'm always at least a little bit suspicious of the LAPD.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. I just, come on, dude. Like, that is so disappointing that, like, I try to move past the water parts really quickly because I just can't think about people drinking that water for too long. But it's like, you allowed not only, like, this poor girl's body to, like, stay in this tank for 3 weeks, but you also allowed people to shower, brush their teeth in, and drink decomposition water because you just, like, didn't go near the tanks. Like, yo, I don't get how they haven't been sued just by, like, guests being like, you're like, the reason I drank that water.
Yeah, like, I think any police search for a missing person should be a thorough search.
If you're...
Thorough means, like, everywhere.
Right, and I think they, like, from the jump, treated it like foul play. Like, they were like... like, they were really searching for her really hard. And so it's like, you don't want to look at where someone might hide a body?
Right.
That's weird.
I'd be looking in all the hidden compartments.
And then people are like, but you didn't look in every single bedroom. If I were the fair, if I was the one that murdered her and I had her body hiding in my room, when they knock and say, can I come in? I'm going to say, no, I'm good.
That's okay.
But also, like, you didn't need a search warrant to look in the fucking water tank.
Right.
So, guests at the Cecil Hotel state that they were not notified by staff of the discovery of the body or warned about the water. I mean, they knew it tasted bad, but once the hotel knew why, guests say they never told them, and that they had to find out via the news. Management says that they did inform the guests. But either way, the hotel had to shut down for a few days and relocated its guests. With Elisa's body being found in the water tank of a building like the Cecil, people couldn't help but notice similarities with the movie Dark Water, originally a Japanese movie remade in the US in 2005. In this movie, a young girl drowns in the water tank at the top of an apartment building. Guests began complaining about the water, with scenes showing the discolored water. There is an eerily similar video from the exact same angle of an elevator that depicts one of the characters having some pretty bizarre behavior. People also point out that the young girl was wearing a red jacket, much like Elisa's in her last sighting. Even more creepy, the characters' names were Dahlia and Cecilia, who went by Cece, which people feel are very reminiscent of the Black Dahlia, suspected to have visited the Cecil prior to her murder, and the name of the hotel itself. Some have speculated.
So, do people think that she was, like, intentionally acting this movie out? Or that it's just, like, a creepy coincidence of, like, the movie matching up?
Yeah, so some have speculated that Elisa was acting out this movie either alone or with someone, and it went horribly wrong. I think the ideas are, like, either she was just acting it out and got herself into the water tank, or that someone convinced her to act it out with them, got her up to the roof, and then killed her, or put her in the water tank, or convinced her to get in the water tank. I feel like this is one of the strongest coincidences. Like, there is so much here. I still don't think it's related, but I think it is so creepy. And it's like one of those things you were saying about the Cecil, that it just, like, God, it just, like, attracts this shit.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I almost think, though, that it's possible that, like, in, like, a disordered thought pattern, if she was having, like, a psychotic episode, that maybe she did just kind of recall this memory of this movie, you know? But it's like, I don't think she was purposefully acting bizarre in the elevator video. She or this person could have had no idea that the water would be discolored, like that she wouldn't be found for so long that the water could be discolored. And I don't think she was like, I'm going to act this out in the Cecil Hotel because someone's named Cecilia in the movie.
Yeah. I need to watch this movie to figure out what I think.
It's on my list too. And I've seen clips and it is, like, creepy. Like, the red jacket's pretty similar. The angle of the elevator is, like, really pretty spot on. But, yeah, I mean, I don't see how it, like, could be related. I also think maybe not, but, like, people keep calling for all of these things. Like, well, this is originally from Japan, and this is originally from Korea. And it's like, not everything that came from any single Asian country is, like, related to Elisa Lam. But they're like, must be, it's from Korea. And I'm like, her family is from Hong Kong.
Could you imagine if people did that with white people?
No, I can't. Because they don't. Ever. They're like, she must have been a huge fan of this movie because it's Japanese. And I'm like, what the hell?
She's not Japanese.
No. So the autopsy results showed that she had a moderate level of decomposition, which I think moderate even sounds generous for 3 weeks in water.
And turning the water black.
Yeah.
Or brown.
Yeah. They found no evidence of foul play or trauma. Elisa Lam was confirmed to be 121 pounds and 5'5", so likely could have fit through the 18 by 18 hatch at the top of the tank. There was nothing remarkable noted on her neck area. There was no evidence of trauma or sexual assault. There were rape kits and fingernail kits collected, but as we know, those things get really backed up and they were never processed. Although, I have to believe that any evidence would have been washed away by that point. The only way to tell would be physical trauma to those areas, because, like I said, I think DNA or whatever would be washed away. It was concluded that she died as a result of drowning. Now, it was noted that no foam was found in her lungs, which may help to prove that someone drowned.
I thought you said phone.
Her phone was not in her lungs either.
Because I was like, oh yeah, her phone was with her. And you said lungs.
Yeah. So no foam, F-O-A-M, found in her lungs, which would have helped them to prove that someone drowned, but isn't necessary for a drowning to have occurred. Which, of course, doesn't help the speculation, though. Would have been nice to just have that. On the autopsy form, it was marked that the manner of death could not be determined, but was scribbled out, an error was written and dated, and then it was marked that the manner of death was an accident. Of course, people also find this suspicious. Mm-hmm. Which, like, you could have just gotten another piece of paper. Mm-hmm. But they did do it the right way. They signed, dated it to say, like, error, so whatever.
They did their best.
Yeah. Her clothing had sand-like particles on them, which seemed to be consistent with some particles found up on the roof. So some theorize that she was hurt up there by someone, and that's why she would have sand from the floor of the roof on her clothing before being placed in the tank. Others, and I actually hadn't really thought of this until I heard this theory, and I think it makes sense. Others have wondered if Elisa was up there, perhaps laying or sitting down, looking at the stars, taking in the view, just sitting on the roof. And then she got in the water tank, either for a separate reason or thinking it could rinse off her clothing. Maybe she too thought there was a ladder on the inside. But
once she opened it, she would have known there wasn't.
I know, yeah. But I think people...
So let me just jump in. I'll just get out with the ladder.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I do think, again, that most people in their right mind would not try to rinse their clothing in the water tank. I don't believe she was in her right mind. And right. I haven't proved this, but I do think people said that she was, like, taking a lot of pictures of, like, the LA skyline, maybe even already from the roof. So maybe she'd already been up to the roof. Or at the very least, this would make sense that she would want to get to the roof to maybe take pictures for her Tumblr, you know?
Tumblr girlies will do anything.
They will.
To get that good shot. Just girly things.
Yeah. They found that Elisa had lower levels of her medications in her system than she should if she was taking her meds as prescribed. The levels were described as interestingly low. It showed that she had taken some of her antidepressants, but not as prescribed, and that she had taken none of her antipsychotics recently.
Can they tell, like, how recently?
I mean, they could, like, figure out, like, how long that, so, like, they could figure out, like, the half-life and, like, how long that stays in someone's system, and then if she has absolutely zero, then they could say she at least wasn't taking it for this many days.
Yeah.
So I'm
thinking about, like my anxiety medicine, like, my daytime anxiety medicine is, like, one that, like, you're supposed to take it every day, and it, like, stays stagnant in your system.
Yeah.
But my nighttime anxiety medicine is, like, just, like, as needed. So, like, when I don't take it, I assume it's just not in my body.
I mean, it's probably there for a few days, like, traceable at least. I think what they have, like, concluded from that is that she was not taking it at least during her stay in LA. So, like, from January 26th to February 1st, she could not have taken it. Now, I don't know how, like, decomposition plays into that. I don't know how any of that works. But I think they also compared this to the amount of pills that they found in her stuff. So, like, if she has a 30-day supply and it was filled on blank day, but she's only taken 3, then, like, we can also pretty much guess she's not taking any, you know? So, yeah, I think that also feels like a little bit of, like, a case closed moment for me. Like, if you're not taking something whose purpose is to prevent psychotic episodes,
right,
I think it's pretty within reason that you may have had a psychotic episode.
Right. Savvy.
Many did not agree that Elisa could have or would have gotten herself up to the roof and gotten into the water tank. So they felt that there was no other explanation other than foul play. So, on February 21st, news was also spreading of a tuberculosis outbreak in Los Angeles. This was said to be mostly spreading throughout Skid Row. In an LA Times article from that time, it says that 60 of 78 cases were homeless people living in Skid Row. Now, the test that would be conducted to determine if someone had TB was called the Lam-Elisa test, spelled exactly like Elisa's first and last name. In addition, people found out that the school Elisa Lam attended, the University of British Columbia, was actually very well known for its tuberculosis research program. Some thought that this was an incredibly strange coincidence, but others started speculating about a much larger plan. Was Elisa sent to LA with tuberculosis as a bioweapon to infect the homeless with TB?
This is like a plot of Stranger Things.
Now, this outbreak had been pretty steady since about 2007, so that is not likely.
I do think it's weird that test is her name.
And the school thing, that's freaky, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it possible that this was a greater plan to clog the internet in a way that when people search Lam-Elisa, they wouldn't find evidence of the TB outbreak, but instead they would only find Elisa Lam's case?
But then wouldn't the police want her to be found, like, sooner than they found her?
Maybe not, because that's what caused all this. People were talking about it because they were like, this elevator footage, and have you seen, where's Elisa Lam? Plus, they didn't get to choose when she got found. Like, maybe they wanted it to go on even longer.
But I'm saying, like, people are thinking that they knew she was in the water tank.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, no, we're not going to look there.
Yeah.
That would be silly.
I think that the idea is that people will do more searching when it's not solved. Now, I do think it's a little far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone could have estimated the way that Elisa's case would take off. I don't think police could have made her act bizarre in the elevator. And know that, like, everyone would think it's an elevator game or a movie reenactment. So, I don't know. Now, Elisa Lam's parents filed a civil suit against Cecil Management, complaining that their negligence caused the wrongful death of their daughter. In the court paperwork, it says, quote, the hotel had an affirmative duty to, among other things, inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger, end quote. Which I think is fair.
Mm-hmm.
They argued that the staff was not properly monitoring access to the roof. There were only a couple of ways to get onto the roof, one of which was a staircase which had a door at the top that was supposed to activate an alarm if opened. This is what you were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. The other would have been via the fire escapes. Many suspect that the alarm system on that door may not have been on or working at the time, which they feel could have prevented Elisa's death. However, the dogs did track Elisa's scent to the fire escape, so that is also a possible route. In my opinion, the probable one.
But do we trust these dogs that didn't smell her at all on the roof?
I don't know, because I don't know how that works. Would they smell her inside of water?
No, but I mean, like, if they smelled that she walked on the fire escape.
Right. Yeah. So I do wonder about that, because when they say, I wish I knew what this meant when they say we didn't go anywhere near the water tanks, because I think the fire escape was like on one side of the building with the water tanks, and they were on the other. So it's like, did they not even go near the fire escape? Did they go near that side at all? Did they just stay on one side of the roof? Like, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Fair. Dogs are wrong sometimes, so.
Rarely, but.
Elisa's parents acknowledge that they do believe Elisa got herself to the roof and into the water tank herself. They just argue that the hotel could have and should have done more to keep their guests safe. They stated that she was experiencing an episode of intense fear and agitation. It was also pointed out that the employees claimed to do weekly inspections of the roof and the water tanks. But Elisa was in the tank for 19 days before being found, only due to there being complaints. The judge found that the Cecil could not have anticipated what would happen to Elisa Lam in an area where guests were not permitted. He wrote, quote, "In fact, the very nature of the water tank would make it unreasonable for her to assume that she was allowed to climb it and open the lid." Which is also fair, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think, though, that anybody is saying, like, they shouldn't allow their guests to go into the water tanks. Like, I think that the argument is that if you have an emergency exit with an alarm that's supposed to sound...
It should sound.
When it's opened, and in the year 2023...
It's still not.
It is still not...
Yeah.
Connected. That is a problem.
Yeah, I think, like, I do get what he's saying, that, like, the hotel would have, like, no reason to anticipate that someone would voluntarily climb into a water tank. I would argue that they do have reason to anticipate that bad things happen, and people could put someone in the water tank, people could hurt someone up on the roof. So I think,
in a hotel called the Suicide, you're not doing more to prevent roof access?
Yeah, and I think in this case, maybe not, but I do feel like Elisa's state of mind almost gives the Cecil an out, because, like, if someone had been murdered on that roof, I think you could easily charge the Cecil with this, right? The wrongful death, because I think, like, why were people allowed on that roof? And you could definitely anticipate murders happening in this hotel. So I get that it's, like, a very particular thing that happened with Elisa. I also think when the judge says, like, the nature of the water tank would make it unreasonable for her to assume that she was allowed to climb it and open the lid, no one is arguing that Elisa was reasonable at this time. No one is saying, not even her parents, are saying that, like, she was acting in a reasonable manner. So, like, no, it's not reasonable for her to assume that. But if the lid were locked, or what I also think is if that door were consistently good at the alarm going off, it was always working, then we would have to assume she went through the fire escape. But because that door is not trustworthy, we're left to wonder. But the Cecil could just, like, cover their own ass by having that door working, you know? And then we would be like, she absolutely took the fire escape.
Right. And I think that her parents, and, like, the way that they said it is, like, exactly correct. Like, they're not saying it's, like, anyone's fault that this happened. They're just saying, like, the security measures that are supposed to be put in place in a public building like a hotel simply were not in place.
Right.
Like, there's a reason that, like, that those kinds of doors have alarms on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, after the judge ruled in favor of the Cecil, an appeal process began, but then later, Elisa's parents did drop their suit. So, that ended. Now, all that's left is our theories. It is my personal belief that Elisa was experiencing symptoms from her mental illness due to not taking her medications as prescribed, and this likely included hallucinating, having delusions, I think that the rest is a little difficult to put logic to, because I agree that there are many parts here that a person in their right mind, air quotes, would not do. I think the other parts of this case, the synchronicities, the coincidences, are all incredibly ominous and creepy, which is made all the more freaky by the fact that it's at the Cecil.
Right.
Your final thoughts, ma'am?
I agree with what you think. I do think that, like, it's possible she was also trying to play this elevator game, or she was trying to act out this movie, and because she was also having a mental break, it, like, just, like, amplified how she was feeling, and maybe that's what caused her to, like, go so far into, like, the delusion that she would go into a water tank.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. If you believe you're in that movie.
Right. I think, because, like, I think people keep pointing out that she wasn't, like, suicidal.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I think that that's possible, but that maybe something happened just in that day.
Yeah.
Even that got her to that point and, like, amplified it.
Yeah. I agree with that. I don't think she went in that water tank to die. Like, I don't believe that, like, it was her intention to complete suicide. I think it went wrong, whatever happened, you know? Okay. Sources will be in the show notes. And next week will be our final week in the Cecil Hotel series. It'll be Mary's turn again. We may or may not be dressed a little cuter. Maybe not cuter. Mary's like...
Yeah, I don't know if cuter is the word I would use.
We may or may not be in the Halloween spirit next time. So. Good night, everyone, or whatever time of day it is.
Looks like night here.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.